This episode of the NHL Show on Sports Addict Live brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. Until January the 4th, which is tomorrow, First Round Collectibles has thousands of sports cards on sale, up to 50% off. And right now, with the promo code Sports Addict, you get an additional 10% off. If the card is 20% off, you get it for 30. If it's 30% off, you get it for 40, 50, 60. Right now until tomorrow, up to 50% off thousands of sports cards. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com and enter the promo code at checkout, Sports Addict. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Yeah.
And welcome to the NHL Show, Sports Addict Live, brought to you by First Round Collectibles. We are back. It is our New Year's preview show. It's a little late, but that's okay. With me to my right, I have John. You can read his work on Gridiron Heroics. 1 million views in December. Congratulations, John. That's big stuff, man.
Thank you, man.
Much
appreciated.
Doing well?
Yeah. Anxious to get into this late New Year's show we got going on. We got a whole half of hockey to discuss. We'll try to predict accurately.
We're going to nail every single one. And to my below, that's a weird thing to say, but Andre, you can see him on Total Apex Sports talking about the NBA and the NFL. Also read his work on Gridiron Heroics and Winners and Whiners. Andre, how are you, man?
Doing pretty well. I'm less excited to talk about the rest of the season as I was before last night's game. I think you guys know what I'm talking about, but it's still gonna be a good show. There's a lot of good hockey left in 2024.
Absolutely. So why don't we just get right to it? Real quickly, before I do, just a little breaking-ish news. I read on the Hockey News this morning, there are multiple reports that William Nylander is getting closer and closer to signing his contract and could happen this week. I don't know. You guys can tell me. I don't know how much of a conversation this is, or like down there. Up here, it's all we talk about. So this is like a huge, and we haven't heard anything for months. Like Willie doesn't care. Like he's just like playing the best hockey of his life. He's not worried about it. But it does sound like it's about 8 years, 90 million, which we'll put it at about 11.25 per season, which is crazy, but he's a phenomenal player, and I am glad that we'll keep him with Tavares coming off the books after next season. It always just gets me weird when I think like Pasternak makes like 9 point something, and like Willie's asking for 2 more than that. I guess it's like a long-term deal, but still. But I'm glad that they're getting close to getting that done. All right, let's get right into it. Our playoff and award breakdown and preview. Let's start off with the Atlantic Division in the Eastern Conference. The Boston Bruins are at the top of the division. Number 1, Panthers number 2, Leafs number 3. The odds for those teams to win the division: Bruins minus 140, Panthers plus 260, Leafs plus 425. Underneath, we got the Lightning with 41 points, Red Wings with 40 points, Canadians 37, Sabres 34, Senators 28. Over in the Metro, we have Andre's beloved Rangers at 51, Hurricanes with 46 points, Islanders 44 points, Flyers 43, Capitals 42, both the Devils and the Pens at 40 points, and the Blue Jackets at 32 points. So I guess we'll just kind of start the conversation off this way. John, out of the top 3 teams in each division, who are you looking at to either creep to a wild card spot or fade from the playoffs just entirely? And is there any team outside of the playoffs that you can see creep to the top 3, or are the top 3 basically what they are for the rest of this year?
In the Atlantic, my personal prediction is the top 3 teams that are currently there are going to stay there. I do genuinely feel like they're the 3 best teams in the division. I'm a little bit pleasantly surprised with Boston and Florida, the way they've bounced back this year. I think in the preseason, I felt like those teams might have been in danger of slipping a little bit, considering Florida made an improbable run to the Stanley Cup final. And I felt like Boston losing a couple of key veterans was like, I was skeptical if they could make a run at the top seed again. I still thought they'd be like a lower playoff team, but in the preseason, but I'm like genuinely surprised at how well Boston's holding up and rebuilding with their youth in the middle of it. With that said, I think Boston is a very complete team. I think they've done a good job of balancing veterans and young players. I still feel like Boston's going to stay at the top, and Toronto and Florida feel like very solid 2 and 3. In terms of like a team that's not in the playoffs right now that I think could be, honestly, I feel like the only one I would really consider is Detroit. I think they've shown some upside potential with their offensive firepower. I do think they've been a bit of a surprise with their start to the year. I'm skeptical if they can finish it off, especially with how much competition is in the Atlantic Division. I do think that top 4 is very solid in the Atlantic, with Tampa Bay on the low end of that 4. I think if I had to pick a team to maybe sneak in, it would be Detroit, and I feel like they're going to be in the mix for a while. But I'm not really a big believer in any of the bottom 3.
What about you, Andre? What do you see here with the top 3? Do you think that the top 3 in both divisions is basically what we're going to see come playoff time? And what do you see changing?
I think I agree with John. I think the top 3 in the Atlantic is set. I'm also fading the bottom 3 in the Atlantic. Tampa, iffy. Detroit, with the way they've been lately and injuries, I think I'm close to fading them. But I'll give them another like week or 2. In the Metro, there's I think a very obvious answer for who should slip out.
Yes.
And it's the Islanders. I think the Rangers locked into the playoffs. I wouldn't quite give them the division yet, but they're sitting arguably the most comfortably atop any of all the division leaders. I think they have the biggest cushion. I'm a believer in the Canes again. They're playing well. They're starting to heat up. The Islanders, their style of OT losses is it's getting them points, but long term, it's also costing them a point in those games. I think the Flyers are going to finish ahead of them in the standings. I think the Devils are going to finish ahead of them in the standings. Possibly Pittsburgh. I'm not sold on that. Washington, I'm going to keep fading them. I just refuse to believe that. So, looking at the Metro, I think Rangers 1, Canes 2. I'll say Flyers 3 for now. Wouldn't be surprised if it's the Devils. And then I think both the wild cards are going to come out the Metro, though. If Tampa doesn't pull it together.
I'm not sure I agree with that one. I think Tampa's getting one of the wild cards.
Yeah, see, I'm with you, Andre. Surprise, surprise. So would it surprise me if the Lightning make the playoffs? Of course not. Right now they're minus 105 to make the playoffs, while the Flyers and the Capitals are both who currently own the wild card spots, are both Flyers plus 110 and Capitals plus 220. So Vegas agrees with you, Andre. No one's buying this Washington team. What I found really curious was Devils, Pens, both 40 points, both 2 points out of a wild card spot. For the Devils to make the playoffs is still minus 220. And for the Penguins to make the playoffs, minus 130. I really do believe this. I really like obviously Tampa Bay, like I just said, if they make the playoffs, it's not going to surprise anybody. But that being said, I really do believe in Philadelphia, the Devils, and I know last night notwithstanding, I'm starting to believe this Pittsburgh team. I just feel like they can figure out a way to get the job done. Sid Crosby is playing like Sid the Kid right now. Gensel's having a phenomenal year. I don't know. There's something about this Pittsburgh team that I'm just beginning to believe in. And I think the Lightning miss. That's just how I feel right now. On this show, a couple months ago, I gave out the odds for Detroit to make the playoffs, a plus 100. It's now plus 280 on FanDuel. And I'm out, I think, on Detroit now. I really want to believe in them. I think they have a really good young team. I think it's more about the Metro teams than it is about Detroit. Like the fact that you have Philadelphia, the Devils, Pittsburgh, and the Capitals, I don't think they'll make it, but I think they're going to hover around. I don't think they're going to completely go away. But that wild card race, I think it's going to be like this all the way to the end, but there's only two that can get in, right? I'd be curious. I didn't write it down. I can't remember what it is. Do you guys think, and this is just kind of a side note coming to my head, do you guys think that the Islanders just might completely fade? Like completely miss the playoffs? Or am I the only one who's kind of thinking that? Because I actually do think...
Yeah, I think they're going to completely fade.
I think they might fade away.
I think them and the Capitals are probably both fading away, but I think we're all kind of on the same page on that one. And you guys even said the sports books seem to agree there.
I feel like the Islanders may just cling on to that last wild card spot.
Maybe.
I don't know.
That's I think that's their ceiling, though.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way they finish third in the Metro when it's all said and done.
You guys seem to be a little higher on the Metro in general than I am, which is weird saying it because I think I have the most stakes in that being high as a Devils fan. I still kind of believe, just to dive into the Metro a little bit, I'm still optimistic the Devils are going to make the playoffs. I'm just not optimistic they're going to be as high as I thought they would be in the preseason. Like I thought we'd be competing for the division title. And I'm starting to think the Rangers are wrapping that up already. The Canes, I think I've been high on the Canes and Devils all year and still kind of buying time with those two. And the Canes are starting to show their upside a little bit. I think they'll be in the playoffs. Like, I'll be surprised if they miss. I'll put it that way. My Devils have shown a little bit of concern about the way that their defense and goaltending have been playing. They give up a ton of goals and their penalty kill is not great, but I do genuinely think if the team, assuming the team stays healthy, at least they have the firepower to persevere through it. And I think I feel the same way about the Devils as I do the Lightning right now, where they'll find a way in despite some notable flaws. I don't feel like they're as complete as even Toronto right now and even the Rangers, but my personal belief about the whole East is like the East probably comes down to 3 teams or so fighting for 2 spots. I don't think I'm as high on Pittsburgh as you guys are. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical they're gonna hang on the rest of the way. Like this is an older team. We still have a whole half of hockey left to play. I'll admit the goal differential is very impressive for Pittsburgh, which is making me think they're the most real of them, the Islanders and the Capitals. I think I'm going to stick to my preseason prediction that this is the year Crosby misses the playoffs. I think overall, like I thought the Atlantic top 3 was pretty solid. I think the top 2 was solid in the East with the Rangers and the Canes. I think the Lightning get the top wild card. I'm really believe that. I'm not ready to say the Lightning missed the playoffs with that core yet, unless a significant injury happens.
Right.
I'm gonna lean the Devils get the 3rd spot in the East Metropolitan. Sorry. I don't disagree about Philadelphia making the playoffs. It's more like I'm not ready to say they're better than the Devils yet. I need to see a little more from them. They're a better defensive team for sure. I'm just not sure they can score with the Devils. I'm ready to say Philadelphia could get the final wild card, though. I think they're a team that could sneak in for sure with the way they're playing. They seem more balanced than the Islanders and more consistent. I think they can hold off a little better than Pittsburgh. Detroit is also showing that they might be a year away right now. So I feel like Detroit and Pittsburgh are the first 2 teams out. But Philadelphia, the Devils, and the Lightning would be the teams that, to me at least, sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I look at the East, I see I consider 7 locks. The top 3 in the Atlantic, top 2 in the Metro. I'd say the Devils and the Flyers, I feel very confident, are going to make the playoffs. I think the last spot is between the Islanders, Lightning, and Penguins. And right now, I think I would have that pecking order be Pittsburgh 1, Islanders 2, Lightning 3.
To make it?
Based on what we've seen this season, I like just who I think is better or most likely. From what we've seen through half the season, I think I'd have Penguins last wildcard spot first, and then Islanders second most likely, and then the Lightning third. But I think the Lightning also have the second or third highest ceiling in the Eastern Conference period. So
right. Yeah, like the only thing that makes me hesitant, not the only thing, but one of the main things that makes me hesitant to say Tampa Bay will miss the playoffs, beyond the fact that they have like Kucherov and Stamkos and Point and the best goalie in the world. Like there's a lot of reasons, but the competition that they'll be playing in their division is also a lot weaker. Like you have Senators, Sabres, Canadians, Red Wings. That makes me feel, and I don't know how many games they have playing against those teams and like whatnot. That's the only thing that kind of makes it difficult for me. I do feel like the Metro is gonna beat up on
This is part of why I think this is part of why I have Tampa getting one of the wild cards. I do think the bottom of the Atlantic is weaker than the bottom of the Metro, so there is like a danger of the Metro teams like eating each other.
Yeah,
I don't see 5 very strong teams in the Metro. You know, I see like a lot of average teams and not terrible teams.
So, question for you, Andre. The Rangers are currently 5 points ahead of the Hurricanes. And side note too, this is what makes this so fascinating for me is between the Islanders all the way down to the Pens, second last team in the division. That's only 4 points. Like this is going to be a wild couple months. And in the East or Atlantic, between the Maple Leafs third down to the Canadians, that's only 6 points. Like it's super tight right now. But to Andre, the Rangers 5 points ahead of the Hurricanes, minus 220 to win the division. Do you think that that is a fair number, minus 220, or do you think it should be closer, not the plus side, but kind of closer to the 100s?
I think it's pretty fair because the Rangers are 5 points ahead with 2 games in hand,
Right.
and then the Canes only play the Rangers one more time, so that's only 2 more direct points they can gain. I guess it's a 4-point swing. So Carolina's it's almost halfway through the season. Carolina's running out of time, and they only have one more opportunity to really stamp that season series, if you will. So it seems fair the way that the Rangers are one of 2 teams with over 70% of possible points right now. So I think it's valid that they're favored that heavily. I think it's valid that they're the heaviest favorite to win the division. And I don't think that's saying that Carolina's out of it. But I think Carolina's also the only real threat to the division at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
And when you're looking at a 2-team race where halfway through the season, almost, the top team is 10% better at getting points, at like points banked, it's an uphill battle, even for a team as good as Carolina. We've seen them get red hot and rip off like 10, 11 wins in a row, but it's still not looking good with the way the Rangers have been playing and the lead they already have.
Even as a Devils fan, I'll say Carolina seems like the only real threat to take the division from the Rangers.
I mean, the Rangers would have to free fall
Yeah.
for any of the other teams to catch up, to be quite honest. Like, no offense to the Devils, but
No,
like,
we
you're
have
11
too slow of a
points
start.
yeah, the Rangers would have to lose like 6 in a row, which I don't see happening.
I know it's early in the season, but I still feel pretty strongly the Rangers will hang on to that division.
Well, and I'm excited. In a few minutes, we'll talk about the President's Trophy. It's going to be a fun battle between Boston and the Rangers. And for the record, John, Boston's over-under in point totals at the beginning of the season was at 99.5, and I took the under. I really didn't think that they would be doing what they're doing.
I would have taken the under too.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be wrong. Like, I'm going to be like very wrong. Like, it's not even going to be close. Yeah. It's not even going to be close.
They have 52 already, and we're not even halfway through. Damn.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even going to be close. Before we move on, I do want to ask one question, just because, like, so Ottawa, they are currently 14 points out of the wild card spot. However, they have played 33 games because of the trip to Sweden. The Leafs have 35 games, and I believe the Red Wings are up to 36 or 37 now, who also went to Sweden. But the rest of the teams are up to, 37 and 38 games. So Ottawa, 28 points, yes, but they played around 5 games less than everybody else. Are we seeing anything lately? Last night we all predicted it. Like, they got their doors blown off in that first period last night. They tried to come back, but couldn't really keep it close. Do we think Ottawa, 5 games behind everybody else, 28 points, is there anything that this team can do to right the ship, or are we just looking ahead to next fall? We'll start with you, John. What do you think?
I don't think they're going to come in last in the Atlantic. I think the real concern is that I feel like they're going to have a hard time sneaking into that top 4 or top 8, whatever you want to go by. Like,
Right.
I genuinely feel like the top 4 in that Atlantic is very solid. So, and they're 13 points behind Tampa Bay, who I think is going to be in it until the end. And Tampa Bay and Ottawa play very similarly, in my opinion. And Tampa Bay, I think, is the more experienced, vetted team with higher star power. I don't see Ottawa climbing up enough to jump them. I do feel like passing teams like Buffalo, Montreal, Columbus, that is doable. Maybe Washington or the Islanders, more likely Washington, depending on how much they fall off. But I think I could see Ottawa coming up to like 12 or 13, but to come in the top 8 at this stage, I think is tough. I think the team I would have to take out would be Philadelphia, and I'm not ready to do that. There's a 15-point difference between them at this stage of the year. And yeah, a hot streak can get Ottawa somewhat back in it, but I think the way Philadelphia is playing right now, they're a bit more balanced. It's a Tortorella-led team. I don't see them free-falling enough where Ottawa can make that big of a move at this point.
What about you, Andre? You see any hope for Ottawa, or are we just about done here?
I see a hot streak coming at some point.
Yeah.
Like a 6-7 game win streak led by the offense, but I don't think they're making the playoffs. Just the hole's too deep sometimes, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. It's a super disappointing year for Ottawa, man. Like, that's a really talented team. And
yeah,
I'm not saying necessarily like Stanley Cup, but this team should be in the playoffs somewhat comfortably right now, in my opinion. And it's super disappointing that is not going to happen. All right. Any last points on the Eastern Conference before we make our way to the West? Dope. Western Conference. In the Central, you have the Colorado Avalanche, 51 points, plus 185 to win the division. Jets at 50 points, plus 200 to win the division. And the leader in the division odds is the Dallas Stars, 48 points, third in the division, but they are plus 175 to win the division. Below that, fourth place onward in the Central Division, you have the Predators, 43 points, Coyotes, 40 points, Blues, 37 points, Wild, 36 points, Blackhawks, 24 points. In the Pacific, you have the Vancouver Canucks at 51 points, plus 280 to win the division, Vancouver. What have we been talking about, John, about Vegas disrespecting Vancouver? Plus 280 to win the division. Vegas, 49 points, plus 240. Kings, 45 points. Again, third place team in the division. The leader when it comes to the odds at plus 145. Then you have the Oilers, 39 points, Kraken, 39 points, Flames, 37 points, and then the Ducks and the Sharks at 26 and 21 points, respectively. Andre, we'll start with you, man. What do you see these top three? Like, I hate to be like super chalk here, but the top three in both divisions, like, to me, they're staying the same. Do you see this differently, Andre?
If Edmonton didn't dig themselves in such a deep hole early,
right,
I would argue that the Oilers passed somebody. Part of me is tempted to still say they do, but I think they haven't had a slump in a while, a serious slump that I think is going to hit them soon. Yeah, the Central, you can bag it and tag it. That one's done.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So Yeah, the top 3 in both divisions are making it. I will say I understand why the Kings are favored to win the Pacific. I low key agree with that. I would argue them in Vancouver, 1 or 2. I could hear either one. I don't think it's going to be Vegas at all. I think when it's all said and done, Vegas would be fortunate to be second. I see them finishing third. In the Central, I like Winnipeg to take it home.
You do, eh?
I think you might have injected me with some Canadian, but I think Winnipeg's the best team in the
Maple
Central.
syrup or something weird.
Yeah. Maybe when Ottinger comes back, if the Stars hang around, he should be closer to a return. It'll be that 1-2. I think Colorado's the third best team in that division, honestly. So, but if I had to pencil out the Central right now, I'd have Winnipeg 1, Dallas 2, Colorado 3, and then Pacific would be Kings 1, Canucks 2. Only separated by like a point or 2 though, and then Vegas third. Looking for the wild card.
This is where it gets crazy.
This is the real debate in the West.
Yeah. Hit me.
I think the Oilers are 1. Just their trajectory, their momentum, their star power, their expectations, what Coach Knobloch's been doing up there. I got Edmonton finishing with the top wild card spot. And I'm between Arizona. I think Nashville's going to fall out, and I like Nashville. But I think Arizona's going to finish ahead of them in the standings. I think Seattle is heading in the right direction. But I think they're going to fall just short. I think they're going to be the first team out of a wildcard spot. I think the Blues are going to be the next team out of a wildcard spot. I think they're going to catch Nashville too. I think I'm going to take Edmonton and Arizona as the wildcard teams.
Ooh.
I'm putting my faith in Tempe. They
That
have
is
good
an
goaltending. They
interesting
have
one.
line scoring with you were just talking about Cruz and Keller the other day. Connor Ingram's a beast in net. Unique home ice advantage that is working for them. Arizona's a tough team. I like them. I think they're going to keep hanging around. I think they're going to finish with the second wildcard spot just over Seattle. I like Nashville. I like Juicy Saros. I just think they're going to fall off.
What about you, John? What are you seeing here, man? This wild card conversation, I agree with you. Like the top 3 in both. The only real discussion is who's going to finish first, second, or third. But I think the top 3 are basically what they are, especially like you have Dallas 48 points and the Predators 43 points. I feel like 5 points is a lot with how good those top 3 teams are. But the wild card is where it gets spicy, man. John, what do you see with the Western Conference?
Yeah, the wild card is really like the interesting discussion if we're talking about who's going to make the playoffs. I think we're all agreeing that the top 3 in each division is going to stay that way. It's just a matter of what order. So I'll save that discussion. In terms of division and how the exact order, I think I agree with Andre on one division, but not the other. The one I agree with is the Central. I think Mark's ingesting us with some Canadian pride here as Americans, giving some of these Canadian teams some love. I do think Winnipeg is the most balanced team of the bunch, though. They play consistently. And I think what won me over with Winnipeg was like how they played without Connor. Like, I think that was their true test. And I felt like Winnipeg responded very, very strongly. And it made me feel like, A, this team has depth, and B, they're resilient. So I think they have a lot to offer. They can score. They have a great goalie. They have some of the best plus-minus players in the NHL. I feel like this team's sticking around, and I think they're the most consistent team. I would pick them to win the Central for sure. I think I'd have Colorado 2, Dallas 3. Something about Dallas concerns me. I can't quite explain it. I do think they need Ottinger back, which they should get.
That game last night was somewhat concerning.
I feel like I've seen Dallas do that even more than Colorado. So, like, Colorado and Dallas are 2 teams I'm going to keep an eye on. I think Colorado, if I had to pick between the two is slightly better. But I think Winnipeg's better than both of them.
Mm.
The West is interesting. I do not agree about the Kings at all. Like I could see the Kings being the most vulnerable team of the six to fall out of the top three. I do not think they will, but I don't feel the same way about the Kings as I do Vancouver and Vegas. I could argue Vancouver and Vegas are the two best teams in the West entirely. And I feel like whoever doesn't win the division is like a very, very strong two. That's going to be a very interesting battle. I've gone back and forth with Vancouver and Vegas for like who is going to win the division. That's where I'm leaning. I've been much higher on Vancouver with like the praise. I still kind of feel like Vegas might end up winning the division. I don't know why. I almost feel like Vancouver is due for a little skid. Vegas has already gone through it, where I still feel like Vancouver is going to be the strongest two out of any of these divisions for sure. But maybe it's because Vegas is like the defending Stanley Cup champion. I feel like they've already gone through a losing streak. I could see them still capturing the division. I'm going to say Vancouver and Vegas come down to the wire. I might slightly lean Vegas for the division. Vancouver strong too. I think the Kings are gonna maybe have to fight off the team who I think is gonna end up in the top wild card for number 3, but they'll hang on to it. Which is where I'm gonna go next. Wild cards are an interesting debate here. I agree with Andre though. I'm on Edmonton all the way. I think they're the top wild card for sure. Where I would have said they had a shot to knock off the Kings, but I do think they started a bit too slow. And also I think their goaltending is very suspect. Whereas the Kings, they've definitely been more solid in that category with Talbot this year. So
For sure.
I think Edmonton's a strong 7, put it that way. The final wild card's where it gets interesting. I think I have no choice but to consider Arizona in this debate with how they played recently. It's very, very tight though for me. But there seems to be like 6 teams in it right now for that last spot. And I think I have 3 of them as real contenders, Arizona being one of them. Nashville, I think, will hang around. And Seattle. I think the Winter Classic showed me something with Seattle and just how they played the last couple weeks. They're not ready to die yet. St. Louis, I don't think scores enough. Minnesota, I don't know what it is. I don't believe them the same way you do, Mark. And Calgary, I don't know. Just they seem like a bit of a mess. I don't feel like they're going to end up in the playoffs this year. So Seattle, Nashville, and Arizona are who I think the last spot comes down to. The goal differential really concerns me for Seattle. That's the only reason I'm a bit hesitant to give it to them. And I think they're kind of at their peak right now with a hot streak. Arizona and Nashville is really tough. This is why I've been so hesitant to give Arizona a definite playoff spot. Because part of me feels like Nashville has more upside than them, but Arizona is more consistent than them. So I feel like Nashville and Arizona may come down to the very end here. This is really why I've been so hesitant to think Arizona's a definite playoff team, because I think I like Nashville a bit.
Yeah.
Oh man. I might say Arizona misses it by like 2 points and give it to Nashville. But I'm more sold on Arizona now than I have been the entire year.
Yeah.
But Nashville and Arizona is still such a tight call for me.
Yeah. So with regards to the wild card, I'll just keep it here for a sec. The Oilers, 39 points, currently 1 point out of a wild card, 4 points out of the second wild card. They're minus 500 to make the playoffs. Like everybody is literally betting this team makes the playoffs. It's hard to say that they won't. I don't have the schedule up in front of me. I don't know if it's easy for you guys to pull it up, but I heard on the radio recently that the Oilers in the next, I believe, January have like a very, very simple schedule, very winnable schedule. And if that's the case, then this is the month if they're going to
Yeah,
jump the Kings.
I got it
then
up
this
here.
is the month.
Mark,
what do you got?
honestly, one of the only tough games they have the entire month is against your team, and that's not for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they have 10 more games in January. I would say maybe 3 of them are kind of games I would consider not easy, but even then they're not against the top teams in the league. Like they're home against Ottawa, at Chicago, at Detroit, at Montreal, and home against Toronto and Seattle, which are probably the 2 toughest games the entire month. Then at Calgary, home against Columbus, home against Chicago, and home against Nashville.
Yeah. I feel like if they do jump the Kings, it's this month. Like this month feels like they could do it. I don't think they will. I really like this Kings team. I think this weird disparity of home and road for the Kings is super bizarre. Like that Leaf game last night was not a incredibly thrilling game, but the Leafs, first of all, one of the best games that I've seen the Leafs play the whole season, first of all. Second of all, they just really shut the Kings down and they couldn't do anything. Martin Jones looked like he was in his mid-20s. I do like the Kings a lot, though. I think for them to be plus 145 to win the division screams to me what I'm hearing a lot from the media here is everybody's waiting for Vancouver to fall off. Not to completely go away. They will still be top 3, but everybody's waiting. Like Demko's been playing out of his mind, and this team has been playing so well. It's like nobody can keep this up for the whole season. Nobody. I just watching this team play, they're so structured. They're just so tight defensively. I think they'll keep it up even when they don't score 4, 5, 6 goals a game. They still have Demko, who's become one of the best goalies in the game. I think that they will win this division. I understand, John, what you're saying with regards to Vegas. I just think Vegas is kind of like Tampa was the last 3-4 years. They've been there, they've done that. They don't need to go like crazy to win the division. If they get in, I think that Vegas is absolutely Stanley Cup contenders. Doesn't matter what they're ranked, whether it's first, third, wild card. I don't think they'll be wild card, but you get my point. Like I think with Vegas, it doesn't matter when they get in. If they get in, then they'll be contenders. It's just kind of that simple. With the Canucks, same thing with the Jets. Like I think the Jets underachieved last year by a long shot, but for them to be like bouncing between number 1, number 2, number 1, number 2, feels like daily it's going up, down, up, down. This Jets team is a super good hockey team. And with regards to the Connor comment, I thought the same thing. And mentor of mine from Manitoba, shout out Bev. She's been a voice in Manitoba sports for about 20 years. And she told me that nobody in the media out there has been shocked by this. Everyone seems to realize out there just how deep this hockey club was, and we're all late catching up to the party apparently. But they're a phenomenal team. Their goaltending situation, like Brossoit, maybe the best backup in the league, and clearly, like I just think the Jets, The Avs have some serious holes. They're a really good hockey team, clearly, but they can't always outscore their problems. And same thing with Dallas. I think the Jets win the division as well. I love the Coyotes so much. I want this team. I love them so much. I love them. I want them to be the wild card team so badly. The thing that scares me about the Kraken in a good way, why I actually like the Kraken, is there or why, but also like gives me doubts about the Kraken. Their goaltending recently has been phenomenal, and I just don't know if that can keep up. Like their goaltending, they're like allowing 0 goals, 1 goal, 2 goal, 1 goal. Like I just think that their goaltending has been too good for what it actually is. This Predators team has been very good this year, and to see them falling off so much that the Coyotes can make it in seems a bit hard for me to see. I I I feel like it's the Oilers and the Predators. That's what I feel like. Just because like the Predators to fall off so much that they completely miss it feels a bit not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched, but it seems a little bit out there. However, I don't think we've seen the best from the Coyotes yet. I really do believe this hockey team is a playoff team. I'm going to say the Coyotes get it done. I just I feel like it's going to be like a 1-point difference. I really do.
Close.
Yeah, if the Predators
Yeah,
make it in
yeah.
or they don't make it in, either way, Predators or Coyotes,
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be like a 1-point difference. It's going to go right down to the wire. I just think this Coyotes team has something really good going on. I think they have really good young players. They're younger. I just and their goaltending as far as a tandem goes, like, you know, Saros is a phenomenal goaltender. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I just feel like as a tandem, both those goaltenders for the Coyotes are very good right now. And I just like this team, man. And to see a 5,000 seat stadium filled in the playoffs will just be insane. Like 5,000 towels. Like there's just something about it. I just want it to happen so badly. I will say this though, really quick to wrap this up. With the Oilers, I don't think they can afford to go on another 3, 4, 5 game losing streak. They've been doing this all year long where they're losing stretches of games and then they're winning 8 and then losing stretches and then winning 5. And then, you know, I don't think the Oilers can lose another 3 games in a row, 4 games in a row. This West is super tight. I don't think the Kraken will necessarily go away. Also, this is what really kills me. The Wild. We talked about this, John. I really like this hockey team. Like they lost 2 really close games against the Jets this past weekend. Don't be surprised if the Wild comes sneaking around too. This is a really good hockey team with Kaprizov. Like I really like this team too. So the Oilers need to be professionals here. If the Oilers lose 3, 4, 5 games in a row one more time, I think it actually might be done because the Western Conference wildcard race is way too tight. What do you guys think about that?
When it comes to the Wild, I almost have the same concern for them I do the Senators. I just feel like it's too big of a hole. It's like I half agree with you that out of like, let's just say the Wild, the Blues, and the Flames, I think the Wild are the best of them for sure. like in that next group. I think my problem is I don't see Edmonton dropping off enough unless, like you said, they go on a crazy losing streak or something. And then, assuming if we put Edmonton in there, I'm just looking at the math here, and like Minnesota, Minnesota versus Nashville. There's like a 7-point difference there. So I think in my head, I'm like, I'd have to believe Nashville's really gonna fall off, or Minnesota is gonna go like undefeated for 10 or 12 games, something like that. So I just don't know if I see it. I do think Minnesota's better than St. Louis and Calgary. You could sell me on them more than the very bottom teams in the West. Just I don't know if it's too late for them already.
It's fair.
What about you, Andre? What do you think if Connor McDavid and the boys go on another 4 or 5 game losing streak? It just seems too tight, no?
I don't think that would sink them, honestly.
No,
I think by now they're firmly in the thick of it, whereas it's a normal season almost. Like, I know they've made up the points and they're in the hunt and all that, but they'd be in better shape, obviously, if they started off stronger, but they've made up enough ground where 3 losses in a row would ever. They'll only be a couple games back, assuming those other teams don't win all those games. As of right now, they have games in hand on pretty much everyone in the Western Conference, except for LA. So they can afford to, have a withdrawal or two because they made the deposits again.
Wouldn't that be something if Nashville and Arizona made it to the wild cards and Connor McDavid has to go to friggin' Mullet Arena to watch a playoff? That'd be tough.
I got one appetizing playoff matchup potentially that I kind of feel like is going to happen. Edmonton versus Winnipeg. How would that be? How would that be for Canada? Because I honestly feel like that's going to be the 2-7.
It would be great. It would be great.
Crazy.
And I think I can already predict. I think Winnipeg wins that one 4-2. I
totally agree with that.
Yeah. I just think even if the Oilers make it to the playoffs, which I think we all think that they will, I think that their back end is still extremely concerning. I just don't see them being able to make a deep run. I kind of want them, if the Canucks win the conference, to see the Oilers and the Canucks would be such a fun playoff round. That would be so fun. And I think if the Pacific stays this way, based on what we saw on New Year's Eve, was it New Year's Eve or Saturday night? Vegas Kings would be a wild playoff series. That would be so.
That would be a lot of fun for sure.
That would be so
Your
much
favorite
fun.
helmets too,
dude. Watching that game last night, I just can't stand. Like, so I know we've been talking for 50 minutes. We got a lot to get to, but just I got you. You started it, man. They did a close up at the end of the game. There was a goal by Trevor Moore that was disallowed. And all the players are just like standing there waiting. And they zoom in on the Kings just standing there, like leaning on the bench waiting. You look yourself in the mirror before going out on the ice. You can't look at, like, I want an actual factual poll done on these players and tell me, do you think those helmets look sick? Because I feel like they are all looking at each other like we look so stupid right now. Like, those helmets drive me insane, man. I don't get it. Like, do you guys like those helmets? Is it just me up here like being weird or what? I don't know. It drives me nuts.
I only like them when they're up against each other. Like when it's the gold against the silver. I just think it's so much that it's artistic.
It's such a Vegas, beautiful, like Los Angeles thing too. Like when they're playing each other, it's like these two obnoxious cities, man.
Rangers.
Oh man, drives me nuts. All right, let's move on. Keep it moving. Going to the President's Trophy. We have and this goes in order of odds. So New York Rangers, 51 points, plus 350. Boston, 52 points, plus 420. Colorado, 51 points, plus 700. The LA Kings have 45 points, plus 700 as well. Dallas, plus 750 at 48 points, I believe, or 43. I messed that up. 48 points, yeah, plus 750. Vancouver, 51 points. Yet again, disrespect to Vancouver, 51 points, plus 1,300. Vegas, 49 points, also plus 1,300. Winnipeg, plus 50 points, plus 1,400. And Carolina, 46 points, plus 2,000. Those are the top 8 teams in odds. Andre, we'll start with you, man. Where do you see this President's Trophy going?
As nice as it is to have the favorite team, I don't want to jinx them, nor do I want the President's Trophy curse touching touching the
Right.
Rangers. So I'm just gonna kindly pass the cooties to Boston. They just overtook the Rangers for the best points percentage in the league, most points in the league, all that jazz. We just talked about how the Atlantic is softer, at least on
Yep.
paper.
Yep.
They have goaltending duo, last year's Vezina winner, a candidate this year who is the different guy. Funny enough, elite power play. They've been here before. I know they might not be interested after last season's debacle. I think this Bruins team is bound to win the President's Trophy. I think just when you're looking at the top teams, it's really hard to say that a team is flat out better. And when you're looking at the other competitors, they probably have the easiest remaining schedule. So
Yeah,
I like the Bruins finishing with the most points. Yeah.
Ron, what about you?
For me, this is exclusively a toss-up between the Bruins and the Rangers. I just think there's too many top teams in the West where they'll eat each other before the end of the year. As good as I think the top 3 is in the Central, I wouldn't call any of them the best team in the league. Even the top tier teams in the Pacific, I still think they're going to eat each other a bit. So this goes down to the Bruins and the Rangers for me. I'm also on the Bruins. I think part of this is because they won it last year. I think at this point of the year, they're not going to run away from it. They might actually even want to win it to overcome that curse and be like, all right, we're coming back. We're coming back stronger than ever, and we're going to prove that we are truly the best team in the league this time and take the trophy and maybe get set to go on a deep run. I feel like they're a more balanced team. They're a pretty complete team. And like you guys said with the schedule, like the Atlantic, I think, has more bottom tier teams than the Metropolitan does, which makes me think the Rangers are going to have a slightly tougher schedule going forward than Boston. So I feel like the odds of Boston just holding their place at the top are just better.
So I'm I see you giving the cooties to Boston, and I'm just gonna right back to New York. I think the Rangers win the President's Trophy. I do, man. I do. I think, with regards to the whole curse thing, like when the Panthers won the President's Trophy a couple years ago, I think we all kind of saw that collapse coming. I think we all kind of knew that this team wasn't going to go far. I just think that we are having a really tough time right now looking like, okay, is it the Flyers, the Capitals, the Devils, the Pens? Like, who's falling off? The Islanders, who's falling off here? We're going to begin to see it. Like, I don't think all these teams stick around for this whole last half. And I think we are eventually going to see who these teams really are. And I think that the Rangers lose at least like generally speaking, and I mean, like you can speak way more to this, Andre, than I can, but I feel like the Rangers lose to good teams. And sometimes it's like 6-1, like last night, which like sucks. But if the Rangers lose, they tend to lose to good teams. Boston tends to lose stupid games. Like they tend to lose to like Buffalo. And I know that Buffalo beat the Rangers too, because that like ruined parlay of mine like 3 weeks ago, and I still haven't forgotten it. But my point is, I just feel like Boston loses stupid games more than the Rangers lose stupid games. I know that's a weird thing to hang my prediction on, but I just think that the Rangers are more consistent game in, game out. I also feel like the Rangers have more to prove. I think that, come playoff time, I know like Boston lost first round of the playoffs last year, but Boston, like they've been there, they've done that. They've won the President's Trophy. They've been first in the conference. I just feel like the Rangers, that was tough, like losing to the Devils last. Like they had control of that series. And I hate to bring it up.
Bring up that game.
I know. I'm sorry, man. You know that I got your back more than I have John's back. I'm just saying that that like stings, right? Like you don't even want to talk about it. I just feel like they have something to prove, and I think they're going to win the President's Trophy. Real quickly, though, I had it here. Where was it? Team futures. Here. The Florida Panthers are plus 1,500, and they're 4 points back of Boston right now. Really quickly, would either of you guys be surprised if the Panthers just kept rolling teams and made their way to the President's Trophy?
A little.
Yeah.
Not gonna be shocked. I weirdly see Toronto as the dark horse.
Yeah, I wish I felt the same way as you, John. What about you? On
Yeah, when it comes to, I said this yesterday, I'm pretty sure. When it comes to Florida, I think Vegas has them perfectly rated, like at all times.
yeah.
Good team, not overwhelming. They're going to win more games than they lose, but they're not going to be the best team in the league. They're going to make the playoffs. They're not going to be the top team in the Atlantic or the East. I think they're just a firmly good team. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't think they're going to win the President's Trophy.
Yeah, I see the 2 seed as their ceiling.
Yeah. Well, the Leafs missed a golden opportunity, man. Like they have 43 points after winning last night, but going on that like 3-game losing streak, like Boston was right there for the taking, but now Boston's won a couple and Toronto lost 3 in a row. And I think, and I said this to you guys when we first started doing this show, I really felt like the Leafs needed to win the division this year. I just felt like they keep getting locked into these really hard, like I know
Been a gauntlet in that Atlantic the last couple of years.
Excuse me. Yeah, man. And I know Boston lost to the Panthers, the 1 versus the 8. I yeah, okay, fine. But you keep getting your butt kicked, not necessarily losing. Like last year they won, but I felt like they really needed to win the division this year. And anyway, I won't get on a Maple Leaf rabbit hole. All right. Let's move on to some.
Mark, can I just say
that
you scrambled my brain and I just cannot focus anymore? So thank you.
What did I do?
You brought up that Game 7.
I
had that thing wiped. I have that thing so wiped. And now I just can't stop
poker. If I ever play poker with Andre, I'm just going to casually bring up Game 7 and just throw him way out.
My brain's melted right now. Just no show to Game 7 against your biggest rivals. Unreal. It's unreal.
If I have like a 2 and a 7 and I throw on some sunglasses and start talking about Game 7, just know that I'm right.
You have the hand one.
Yeah, just know you're okay. Don't get distracted. Let's move on to the Rocket. Which, by the way, Andre brought up this conversation of Matthews beating Gretzky's record and passing Ovi eventually. And I saw from ESPN, Bar Down here in Toronto, retweeted. ESPN had a photo of how Matthews has more goals in his career right now than Ovi did back in the day. And I this is going to be a really interesting thing. The betting odds of Ovi passing or being passed by Matthews isn't out yet, clearly, because we're gonna have to wait like 10 years. That would be a long investment to put money into. But it's gonna be really interesting to see down the road. All right. So Matthews, 29 goals, minus 110. Kucherov, 27 goals, plus 600. Reinhart, 24 goals, plus 3,000. Besser, 24 goals, plus 1,200. Panarin, your boy Andre Panarin, plus 3,500. Pasternak, 22 goals, plus 360. Where do you guys see? We'll start with you, John. Where do you see this Rocket Richard going?
Barring a significant injury, it feels like a two-man race between Matthews and Kucherov. I think before the Samsonov thing happened, I would have been willing to lean towards Kucherov because I would have felt like the Lightning had more upside there, but I don't feel that way anymore. And the reason why I bring up Samsonov is something I discussed with you the other day on our podcast. I feel like this thing, just from an outsider looking in, is like a breath of fresh air for the Leafs. And last night kind of showed that they're getting somewhat decent goaltending now. So it makes me feel like the Leafs are about to go on a run a little bit. I'm not saying anything crazy, but enough where I believe more Matthews can keep up the pace he's on. And he's starting to get a good narrative going about him and Ovechkin. So it just feels like his year to get the Rocket Award. So I think I'm going to stick with him. And I don't think I would have said that a few days ago.
What about you, Andre? Actually, real quickly, John, just real quick, and we might actually talk about this a little bit later in the show. I am interested about this West Coast trip, man, because West Coast trips for the Leafs always are hell. They always just like derail everything. And that game last night was like super important to watch how they played. And Matthews didn't score, so bet him to score 2 goals tonight. We'll talk about that later. Andre, what do you see as far as the Rocket race goes?
I agree with John that it should be a two-man race. Just real quick, I bet Panarin to win the Hart, so I'd love it if he won Rocket Richard. That would help a lot.
Let's go.
But anyway, it's going to be Matthews. I feel extremely confident saying Austin Matthews is going to win this award. The Leafs have played 4 fewer games than the Lightning, and he has a 2-goal edge.
That's a good point.
I just think the team around him, because Kucherov's a creator much more than Matthews is. Like, Matthews gets fed. Kucherov, he finds the back of the net, but he's got to make the passes. He's got to give goals for other people. I think that really helps Austin Matthews. I think Matthews' shooting percentage should go down from 19.9%, just a tad, which does concern me a little bit. But with 4 extra games, 2-goal lead, just the way that team is set up, I really like Matthews more than Kucherov here to take it home. And Zach Hyman is a dark horse, though.
Ooh,
I don't know how or why. Right? Yeah, it's not Draisaitl, it's not McDavid, it's freaking Zach Hyman.
Yeah.
He's just getting them. He's been getting them a lot lately too. I think that's sustainable. So watch for Zach Hyman to sneak up the board, maybe pass, Pastrnak, Panarin, Besser, and Reinhart. Finish second or third.
I think what I've been seeing with regards to Matthews this year, clearly he was hurt on some level last year. The guy still scored 40 goals. I think that the way that Nylander has been scoring, Tavares has been scoring, Marner has been scoring. I feel like there's not pressure on Matthews to score like there has been in the past, which just kind of takes the load off. Like when Matthews doesn't score for 2 games, 3 games, it's talked about here. Like he's on a cold streak, 3 games without a goal. Is Matthews, still going to score 50? Like it's a legit talking point here. So I think because there's been so much scoring surrounding him, his shot's just moving freely right now. And that wrist shot, like, is just insane. Like watching the way he shoots the puck is just phenomenal. I will say from a betting standpoint, minus 110 is still good value to bet him at if you are going to bet him. That being said, if you're looking for somebody to bet plus money, I do think plus 600 for Kucherov is still very good value. Like plus 600 seems a little much to me, just with the way he can score. I thought it would be more in the, plus 2 something, 3, maybe even 4. But plus 600 is still really good value. The other thing, Pasternak, he's plus 360. That guy can score 4 at any time. So that is not a dark horse, because Pasternak I don't think is fair to be called a dark horse at this point. But the Hyman thing's really interesting. I kind of like overlooked that. But you're right. And I mean, he's got guys to pass him the puck and to give him good looks too, right? So I'm with you, man. Hyman is the other thing, John. We're talking about how Vegas like loves the Oilers, right? And always gives them crazy odds or whatever. Connor McDavid's plus 900 to win this award. And I don't believe that he is in the top like 30 for goal scorers right now. Like goals, not points.
He has like half of Matthews, right?
Yeah, maybe even less than half, dude. Like I think he has what, 13, 14 goals, something like that. Maybe
15, 14.
14.
Tied for 42nd.
Yeah, so he's plus 900, which is still like plus 900 still a lot. But
how does he have 1/4 the odds of Panarin, who's only 6 behind? And
right.
I'm saying as a Devils fan.
That's what I'm saying, man. And like Panarin's
doing great right now too.
He's phenomenal. He is more of a passer than a shooter, historically speaking. I believe, Andre? Like I would probably say that he like sets guys up.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. So, but that being said, he's still got 23. And so you're 100% right, man. For him to be plus 3,500 and McDavid, is just crazy. Anything more on the Rocket before we move on?
We seem to all agree on who we think it's going to end up being.
Yeah,
it's very Eastern Conference heavy at the top. I will say
that too.
Well, and to that point, I'll just say this: Besser 24 goals, plus 1,200. Like I mentioned, he's a really good story right now for him to be scoring the way he is. I do think that will regress, and I think that the Canucks are a very good defensive team and a very good goaltending team, where if the scoring dies off, they'll be fine. Where teams like Toronto and the Lightning, like they need all the goals they can get. So Besser, it's a nice story. I can't see him leading the league in goals. Also, at the beginning of the year, Besser's goals, he was getting a lot of really good bounces, and the puck was just bouncing to his stick at the right time. And I don't see that. So you're right, 100%. It's the Eastern Conference repping here. Moving on to a conversation that I probably find this conversation more interesting this year than I have in past years. The Jack Adams Rick Tocchet for Vancouver is plus 190. Now, that doesn't necessarily surprise me, but the rest of these odds absolutely surprise me. John Tortorella for Philadelphia, plus 800. Rick Bowness for Winnipeg, plus 900. Chris Knobloch, I have in here for Edmonton at plus 1,800. And there is a reason why I put him here. But first of all, I think the reason why John Tortorella is so high right now, if you believe that Philadelphia will make it to the playoffs, I think you should bet this right now. Because if they keep playing the way they are, and they basically prove to us by February, March that they will make it to the playoffs, you're obviously going to see these odds go way down. If Philadelphia makes it to the playoffs, I personally believe that John Tortorella should get the Jack Adams. I think that Vancouver underperformed drastically for the last couple years. Now, no one thought they'd be the number one team in the Western Conference right now, but they still have a good team. They have a world-class goalie. Like, they have been underperforming, where the Flyers are supposed to be rebuilding still. And if they make it to the playoffs, I think this is John Tortorella. Same thing for Winnipeg. Like, Winnipeg made it to the playoffs last year, got spanked in the first round. I think that this should be John Tortorella's if Philadelphia makes it to the playoffs. John, what do you think about that?
I love Tortorella. I really do. But I think Philadelphia would have to finish better than I think they will for Tortorella to win this. Because I have Philadelphia coming in as like the last team to make the playoffs. And even if they're like the third team in the Metro, I don't think that's enough to give it to him. I think Philly would have to be like the solid number 2 in the Metro for him to win it. Because I just think there's too much competition for the award for teams that are somewhat surprising. I mean, Vancouver, I think, is surprising to everybody, which is why we're probably seeing Tasha be as big of a favorite as he is. Knobloch, I think, is worth mentioning because Edmonton's really turned it around of late, and I think they're going to continue to do so. I would not give it to him, but I think he will deserve to be in the running if like Edmonton's firmly in the playoffs. Winnipeg for Bonus and Winnipeg, I think that deserves a mention too, especially if I think if Winnipeg wins the division, that's a discussion. If Vancouver is like a top 3 team in the West, that's definitely a discussion for Tashet. I'll give one name I think should be in here that I don't see on here. Andre's boy, Laviolette. I think the Rangers are playing really well right now. And if the Rangers solidly win the Metro, he deserves to be in the mix, in my opinion. Maybe this is just
plus 900, right? I think Laviolette.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe this is me just saying this as a Devils fan. I didn't think the Rangers would be that much better than the Devils than they're turning out to be.
Yeah.
I thought the Rangers would be in trouble. Not in trouble, but like I thought they would be in the same spot they were last year in the standings. So to see the Rangers firmly have control of the division, I feel like Laviolette should be considered for the award if the Rangers hang on to it. I think that would be the top name I would have in the East. To win the award overall, though, I think I have no choice but to give it to Tashet if Vancouver ends up in like firm top 3 in the West. I think it's his.
I would just quickly say before we go to you, Andre, that I just think preseason expectation matters. And I think that like the Rangers were like world beaters last year. They made it far in the playoffs, right? I won't bring that up again. But expectation for the Rangers, regardless of the coach, was to go deep, right? Same with the Oilers. The Oilers did not fire Woodcroft because this team, they needed like whatever. Like they were supposed to be winning that division. So to me, preseason expectations matter. But you might be right though. It might not. Andre, what do you think here?
Just real quick about Mark, you really broke my brain, man. About Lavalette, I think expectations are the reason why. Unless the Rangers win the President's Trophy, I don't think he's going to have serious consideration.
But were they a lock to win the Metro in the preseason? I mean,
they weren't, but they were expected to make the playoffs. They were in the Eastern Conference. I mean, they were 20 minutes away from a 3-0 Eastern Conference Finals lead just 2 years ago.
Yeah,
they made the playoffs again last year, and we're up 2-0 in that series. Oh my god, the Rangers.
I get what you're saying. They had higher expectations. Yeah, I'll agree.
Where it's like a Winnipeg or a Vancouver, or even Edmonton after their horrendous start. I feel like all those teams, the coaches are doing a more impressive job. I think if Winnipeg finishes ahead of Vancouver in the standings, Bonus should have the edge in Jack Adams. Tortorella, I'm kind of on the same wavelength as John. Maybe if they reach 100 points, third in the Metro, he's getting first and second place votes. But otherwise, I don't really see him in the running between Vancouver and Winnipeg. Chris Knobloch, if Edmonton makes the playoffs, going to get some serious consideration. If they finish top 3 in the Pacific, might win it.
That's a discussion if he does, for sure.
The thing is, and this is why I put his odds here, was to have this conversation, because maybe I'm too hard on him. Maybe this isn't fair of me. You have a team that was supposed to win the division. You have the best player in the world. I'm not saying he's done nothing, because he has. Like, he changed like defensive schemes and all this stuff. But like the Edmonton Oilers, like they're cup contenders. You know what I mean? In like the summer. So I don't know. Like, to me, if he wins the Jack Adams, I would highly disagree, no matter what the Oilers do. I think Woodcroft right now has to be just watching every game. Like, what in the world were you guys doing when I was on the team? Like, what is happening? But yeah, it's an interesting conversation for sure. All right. Last award that we'll talk about today, and we'll do a quick breakdown of the games tonight. The Vezina Trophy. Thatcher Demko plus 400. Connor Hellebuck plus 400. Jeremy Swayman plus 500. Cam Talbot plus 550. Aiden Hill, who I feel like hasn't played in like 2 months, plus 1,000. Igor Shesterkin plus 1,400. Sorry. Connor Ingram, showing the Coyotes some love, plus 2,000, and Saros is plus 2,000. Admittedly, you guys know much more about the goaltending stats than I do. Andre, we'll throw it to you first. What are you seeing from the Vezina candidates this year? To me, it's just Thatcher Demko's trophy to lose. No? Do you see this differently?
Yeah. Aiden Hill would deservedly be the front runner if he had more games under his belt.
Right.
That's pretty much the only reason he's not leading. He has the best goals against average and save percentage in the league. He has 3 shutouts in 15 games, or two shutouts in 15 games. And Vegas is obviously headed for the playoffs, but he only has 15 starts. So you can't really give him the award until, he comes back and keeps doing the same thing. I think you can get rid of Shesterkin because he's already won one. This isn't his best season, even though he's coming on of late. You can get rid of Swayman, I think, because Olmark, his partner in crime, won it last year. I think they're going to just see it more as the Bruins defense is really that good than the goaltending situation, even though their numbers are very impressive. So yeah, that really makes it, to me, Connor Ingram, UC Saros, good goalies, not Vezina caliber this year. It's really a Demko, Hellebuck, and Talbot race to me. Demko has the edge in. I'm sorry, Ingram, not Ingram. Demko, I was right, has the edge in assist over those, or not assist. Wow, I'm mixing up stats. Shutouts over those two. He has 3 shutouts this season for Vancouver, and they're obviously atop the Western Conference, so that helps him a lot. Talbot, Kings are best goaltending team in the league. He has the best save percentage among those 3, but Hellebuck is just the model of consistency.
Yeah.
Winnipeg, was it 26 straight games where they haven't allowed more than 3 goals? It's just every night, 2 or fewer, it seems like. When you're facing the Jets, it's impossible to score on them. And I think that consistency, it might not have the same goals against averages or save percentage as Cam Talbot. He might not have the shutouts of Thatcher Demko, but just every single night, you're getting really great goaltending, and it's producing wins for a Winnipeg team that wasn't favored that highly before the season. So
yeah. I love that this is the conversation, man. Like Thatcher Demko, Connor Hellebuck, like 2 Canadian teams. I love it because we don't win anything up here, man. We haven't won a Stanley Cup since I was like 4 years old. So to see 2 teams in the Vezina conversation, I love it. John, what do you see here?
I think this is the biggest toss-up of the awards we've talked about. I think this is the one where we don't really have a clear, locked-in front runner. We have a few guys in contention here. Demko, I think, deserves to be solidly in the mix. Hellebuck, too. My problem with the Boston goalie Swayman and Omar is that I view them as more of a tandem, and I feel like most of the league does too. Enough to the point where I don't think either one is going to stick out enough to win. So I think I'd take both of them out. I think the way I personally look at it, it's like it has to be a solid number 1 goaltender that's going to be an Iron Man back there essentially. Demko and Talbot, I don't think are going to hold up the way they are right now. I think both of them are due for a slump. Talbot, I'll be shocked if he has the stats he has right now at the end of the year. Like he's averaging 2.1 a game. If he has that at the end of the season, give him the trophy. But I think I'm just skeptical that actually holds. I think my pick is going to be someone that's not even on here on the banner I'm seeing down below. And that's Bobrovsky for Florida. I think he's just someone I trust the most at the moment.
Really?
And I think Florida is a team that relies on goaltending more than most of the teams we're talking about here. LA, Vancouver, they're more balanced teams in my opinion, which is why I think if Ingram puts up better stats, he would be more in the mix as well. But I think Bobrovsky is like that solid veteran we trust. He's a name, and he's a big reason why Florida even made the Stanley Cup final last year. The guy played out of his mind, and I personally think name matters, and Bobrovsky's a name. So, like, I think Winnipeg will have Heliuk would be like, I probably butchered his name, but he would be the one I think is the most serious threat to Bobrovsky at the moment. But I feel like he's a dark horse, Bobrovsky, to win this one. Like I said, I think the award in general is like the biggest toss-up of the bunch, but
yeah,
it's my little dark horse pick to win.
I mean, my 2 cents here, and you guys like go way deeper in the stats for goaltenders than I do. I think based on just watching Connor Hellebuck, like you said, Andre, just consistency. I trust if I'm going to choose right now who I think will win based on consistent play, because we got to kind of predict what's going to happen to predict who's going to win these awards, right? And I feel like Connor Hellebuck is the guy that I can say 100% certainty that he will keep this play up. I think Thatcher Demko can. I also think he's been playing out of his skull. Like, I think he's been playing so well that I don't know if he can keep that up. I think Cam Talbot has had a terrific bounce back year. He is susceptible to regression, though. I would love to see him get it. I think he deserves it. He's had a tough, bouncing around from Ottawa and Edmonton and blah, 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 blah. And finally found a home here and has played really well. I would love to see Cam Talbot win it. I really would. Yeah, Jeremy Swayman. I'm had enough of Boston. Like, my son's name's Boston, and I love that Boston. But Boston as a city, like, great city. But as far as our sports teams go, I've had enough, and I don't really want to talk about it anymore. Igor Shesterkin. Do you think, Andre, really quick to wrap this up, do you think he can just flip on the light switch and just steal this award from whoever? Because if there is a time to win this award, it's right now, like, to turn it on right now. Do you think that can happen, or is that time for him kind of passed by?
I think because he's already won one and it was a Hart Trophy finalist type season, it's just, it's not going to happen at this point, especially after last night's debacle. But I think he's going to shoot up in the odds. He's been playing much better lately. He's looked a lot more like himself lately. I still think he's the best goalie in the world, but he's not going to win Vezina this year. The full season body of work, it's not going to be there when it's all said and done.
Love it. All right. Moving on. That's our rest of the 2023-24 prediction and breakdown. We're going to move on very quickly here to the games tonight. It's a Mark and John doubleheader. 2 peas in the pod, you and me, bro. It's a Mark and John doubleheader, starting with your boys in Washington. I know they played last night, but plus 154 seems a little bit wild. Now plus 150. The Devils minus 180 now. This says 185. They're now minus 180. Puck line for New Jersey minus 1.5 is plus 142. Washington plus 1.5 is minus 170. The over is 6.5, minus 112. The under is minus 108. John, what do you see here, bro?
I like the Devils to win the game. I think the problem is the money line's a bit high for my liking. The Devils, obviously a much better scoring team. Washington coming off the game last night in Pittsburgh, probably might be a little tired here to go up against a team that likes to run up and down the ice the way the Devils do. The problem is we've touched on this point before. The Devils are really just not reliable when it comes to puck lines, and I would watch it with the Capitals here tonight, which is why I think the best bet on the board here is to take the over. I do think the Devils are going to put up some tonight, and I could see them giving up just enough to get this over 6.5. I see this being like a 4-3 game, so give me the over on this one.
What about you, Andre?
I think the Devils are so much of a better team.
Yeah.
But I have to pick against them because the Washington Capitals, in their stupidity, played Kemper last night. So that means Charlie Lindgren's starting tonight. And, well, one, Lindgren's already beaten the Devils, held them to 2 goals on 26 shots. But he's been the better goalie all season. We've been saying that all season. He's 7-3-3, 227 goals against average, 928 save percentage. He's been a beast lately. I don't think they've lost in regulation with him this month. Or no, they lost one start to Nashville. Either way, he's going to overtime or he's winning. The most goals, he allowed 4 goals with one start. The rest of it was 3 or fewer in his appearances. He's really playing just... I know I talk about a backup goalie so much, but Charlie Lindgren has been having a very strong season. I
He's
saw
so
somewhere
good, man. Yeah.
I saw somewhere on Twitter, like headed into the New Year's, he's like 5th in goals saved above expected. So it's not just like the team's playing better in front of him. He's just making the plays that Kemper's not.
Yeah.
I don't like how weird and unpredictable and nonsensical this Capitals team is. But they won last night in Pittsburgh when I said they were going to get smoked, despite their best efforts to blow it. And I think they're going to win again tonight. And I don't feel great about saying that, but I just kind of have to. I don't know.
Yeah. Unfortunately for you, John, I agree with Andre only because so it's a little trend that I discovered. The New Jersey Devils are 8-6 in December, 3-1 in their last 4. This season, was it this season? I think it's this season. They've only won scoring less than 3 goals twice. They have to score 3 or more goals to win. And I don't think that they will against this goalie. It would make perfect sense. Washington played last night. Almost let Pittsburgh come back and win that game. But they won the game. Going home, it makes sense that New Jersey would win this game, but I don't think that New Jersey is going to be able to score tonight enough to win this game. I don't know. And John, you'd be able to speak better to this. I still get concerned about the goaltending situation for the Devils, and I don't know. I feel like the Devils should win this game. I feel like this is perfectly set up for the Devils to win this game. But Lindgren's been stealing games from teams all year. And I have this feeling it's going to be a really low scoring game. I'm actually opposite on the over. I wouldn't actually bet it because the Devils and the Capitals love to do exactly what I think they will. So I'm not even going to bet the over.
Yeah.
Or the under. But I feel like Washington's going to sneak this game out.
One note, I should mention that I think Dawes is getting the nod at goalie for the Devils.
He's been good.
And he's a relatively unknown guy for the Devils right now.
He's been good over the last couple years or last couple games.
Yeah, he did good against Ottawa, but like the Vanacek started in Boston, I think, after that. So this is going to be interesting to see if Dawes is the real deal. Because if he has a good streak, he could definitely take the starting job.
100%. 100%.
You would love that.
I would. I've been calling for Vanacek's head for a while.
What I will say, even me saying this about what I think with regards to the goal scoring tonight, I still think you got to sprinkle something on Hughes and Brett power play point. I think those guys, like 20 power play points each, you got to sprinkle something on it. First power play in the league against a 12th penalty kill. Not an awful penalty kill, but you can't let a game go by without betting these two guys power play points. All right, the second half of the Mark and John doubleheader. Toronto is in Anaheim. Toronto played in Los Angeles last night. They're just driving down the road to Anaheim. Excuse me. Toronto, minus 205 favorites on the road, plus 170 underdogs are the Ducks at home. Minus 1.5 is plus 110 for Toronto, while plus 1.5 is minus 130 for the Ducks. The over is 6.5 at minus 148, and the under is plus 124. I would be very careful with this over under. So Hildeby is playing tonight for Toronto. 22 years old, first start in the National Hockey League, fresh up from the Toronto Marlies. Whoa. I don't know. Like, do you know Hiddleby? The Hildeby? They called them. I heard on the radio they called them the Hildebeest yesterday. So maybe he has a good reputation. I don't know. He's played well with the Marlies. He has played well. It's the NHL. It's different. It's his first game. Who knows? I kind of like the under, just because I feel like Toronto knows this is a kid. He's a rookie. I feel like they played a very tight game last night. I know they played back-to-back, but they played a very tight defensive game last night, and I feel like they're going to do the same thing tonight. I think the under plus money, I like really plus money. I actually really do like the under. I just wouldn't like, I'm not like dipping into my kid's college fund, like, like bet a few bucks, nothing crazy. But I like the under just because I do think Toronto showed something last night on the defensive end, and you got some rookie goaltender in tonight. And I think that they will treat him well. That being said, from November 30th to December 16th, that's 8 games. The Leafs scored 4 or more times, or 4 or more 6 times. 6 times in 8 games that the Leafs scored 4 or more. Since then, 7 games, they have scored 4 or more twice. And I feel like, again, even though a back-to-back last night, I feel like they're about to break out again. It's been a while, and I feel like they're going to break out tonight. So with that, if I think they will break out, and if I think it'll hit the under, the Ducks under 2.5 goals is plus 100 tonight, and I think I like it. I like the puck line for the Maple Leafs. I like the under 6.5, and I like the Ducks scoring less than 2 goals. Those are my picks. Matthews didn't score last night, which means he's going to score like 9 tonight. Matthews is minus money. I think he's like minus 140 or something stupid to score tonight. Also, Matthews, 13 power play points, plus 165, 44 points on the year. Over 1.5 points for Matthews is plus 145 tonight. Nylander, 19 goals, plus 100. He scored 2 goals last night. We're hearing he's about to sign this deal. I think Nylander scores tonight as well. 17 power play points for him, plus 124. And 50 points on the year. Over 1.5 is plus 130. John, what do you see in this game?
I think if Jones was in net, I would be picking the puck line in this one for Toronto. The fact that he's not makes me a little bit nervous to go that firmly on the Toronto side, because I don't really know what, given what you just described, I don't know what I'm getting in net for Toronto tonight. So that has me concerned on a back-to-back a little bit. But I am optimistic about the team overall. I do think they're heading in the right direction. But I don't think I can trust the goaltender in net enough to back a puck line for Toronto. So I think what I'm going to do instead is pick the over. I feel like it might take a couple extra goals for Toronto to seal the deal tonight versus what they did against the Kings last night. But with that said, I don't think I want to bet against them with the way I feel about the team right now. So I feel like the over is the best bet here. Maybe. So I think that's where I'd lean.
We disagree yet again. My arch nemesis. Andre, what do you see tonight, bro?
I'm eventually.
I also think the over is the best bet in this game. I just see Toronto. They scored 3 against the best goaltending team and defensive team in the league last night. I think they have a little extra going down to Orange County to take on the Ducks tonight. So I see like a 4 or 5 goal performance from Toronto in this one. New goalie for the Leafs. I think he lets a few through, 2 or 3. The Ducks aren't great in really any way, especially not with scoring, but they have guys that can put the puck in the net. There's still threats on the ice. Toronto still has defensive issues, goaltending issues, and they won't be as fresh because they played yesterday. So I think this game is going to have at least 8 goals. I think picking a side, I would lean towards Toronto winning and covering like the puck line, but I wouldn't be as confident in that because I could also see this one going to OT being a tight one.
This is what I hate about my team is you just get so mad and then you see them play like that last night and all of a sudden they're gonna like win the cup 3 years in a row. Like it's just you just get sucked right in, but love it. All right, let's I don't know, there's only 2 games, so it's automatically a SGP plus tonight. John, what's your best bet for tonight, man?
So many options to choose from here. I think I'm going with what I just picked. I like the Toronto over hitting a little more than the Devils over, but I think both of them will hit.
So Toronto over or
Yeah.
the Toronto Ducks over?
Yeah, the Toronto Ducks over is what I like, mainly because of who you have in net tonight. If
Right.
it was Jones, I'd be picking the Toronto puck line. I just feel like this is a safer play with a less predictable goaltender in net there.
What about you, Andre?
Well, I'm glad you did that because I was doing the Washington jersey over. So that made it nice and simple for me.
There we go.
Yeah, Washington's back at home. They've been better at home. Weak defensive and goaltending team against the Devils. I know we just gassed up Lindgren. He's in net, whatever, but the Devils still lethal offensively. I can see them still managing 3 in this game. I see this being like a 4-3 game when it's all said and done. I think, regardless of who wins, wouldn't be surprised if it went to overtime. I think it's gonna be 4-3. So that's sneaking over the total, and that's where I'm at with it.
What I will say, it's not necessarily a recommended bet. However, if you do like the Ducks in this game, back to back, blah blah blah, the puck line for the Ducks is not the worst value as far as puck lines go on the +1.5 side, -130. If you do back the Ducks, I think that's probably the best way to go. To pick them to win this game straight up, I think is a bit risky, but the +1.5, this is where I'm at with it. I like the Leafs puck line, but it's volatile. I like the under. That's also volatile, as you've like both picked the over, right? I like a lot of different bets in the game. I think it's all very volatile. The one thing that I really trust in this game, and it's going to add a bit of risk to this same game parlay plus. I wonder if we can do it on DraftKings. You'll have to let me know. I really like Austin Matthews over 1.5 points tonight. I think that the Leafs are going to score goals, and I think scores 1, maybe 2, and assists on another. He has 10 points or 11 points in his last 5 games. The guy is just getting points every night, and I like Austin Matthews over 1.5 points at +145.
I'm loading.
All good. While you're doing that, our best bets are brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Until tomorrow, First Round Collectibles has thousands of cards of over 50% off, or up to 50% off. You heard my kid. We won't let him use a computer. He wants to get on there. He wants to get those cards. We won't let him. He's too young because he'll ruin them. He'll eat them. I already bought him a pack of cards and he found them and he already ripped them up. So if Kevin Hayes, if he ends up being a star, it won't matter because my kid already ripped up his rookie card. But my point is, Sports Attic is the code. Get an additional 10% on all sales and non-sales items. FirstRoundCollectible.com. All right, Andre, what do we got there, bro?
Devils at Capitals over 6.5. Maple Leafs at Ducks over 6.5. Austin Matthews over 1.5 points. We are looking at a plus 467 parlay.
I love it. Nice and safe. We got swept
Yep.
clean last night, boys. So
Yeah.
keep it nice.
We're due.
Keep it nice. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, everybody, that is our New Year's preview. It's a little late. It's still the 3rd. It's still New Year's technically, right? I think that's fair.
Yeah, we can still celebrate.
That is our New Year's awards and playoff prediction and preview. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we will be back tomorrow at 3:30. Check out firstrroundcollectibles.com. That sale ends tomorrow. And until then, we will see you guys